In Ghana's history, there was Ya Asantewaa, and then there is Nana Konadu Rawlings. Tonight we have an all-female panel to look at the legacy of one of our most consequential first ladies of our history, Nana Konadu Rawlings. We're going to be assessing her enduring impact. She was 76 years and she passed last week. Of course, the nation was plunged into a state of mourning as we assess what she really brought to the table. And she was a trailblazer. Often that word is abused, but in her case, it is apt. We've heard John Dramani Mahama, the president, make this pronouncement as far as she's concerned. The family can do the traditional funeral after the state funeral. So we know that there's going to be a state funeral for her. That's what she deserves, nothing less, because of the impact that she wielded. If you look at her own story, First Lady of Ghana, longest serving First Lady, by the way. Nobody else can beat her because currently they just have a maximum of 8 years. Then you have the NDC's first vice chair. You know, one of the key challenges that civil society, the activists face is encouraging more women into politics and into decision-making positions. She was never afraid to take on the men, and she did it without any apology. From there, she became the NDC flag bearer aspirant. She challenged the men. She challenged Professor Mills at the time. It was one of the most acrimonious contests internally for the NDC. And of course, she believed that she was entitled and she was qualified enough to lead the NDC. When that context was done, she did not win. And that didn't stop her. That is the Nana Konadu Rawlings effect. It did not stop her. She went on and founded the National Democratic Party, the NDP. It was on the ticket of the NDP that she became the first woman to run for president in this country. Yes, she lost. But of course, it didn't stop her from continuing to keep the NDP as a political party. A woman who founded her own political party, led it, ran for president. That is Nana Konadu Rawlings for you. And tonight we'll be talking to a few people she inspired, who themselves are in politics today because of the path that she charted. And if you look at her performance at the time, it was just 16,000 votes that she garnered. That tells a story by itself. We have been talking about gender equality, gender equity, encouraging more women into politics for a long time. And when the women show up, what support do we give her? Her story epitomizes that. Only 16,000 she managed there. Even the women did not vote for her. Why is that? When we look back on her life and her legacy, we need to assess that too with the broader context of what we need to do as a society to empower more women like her to stand up and be counted when it comes to the political contest and decision-making. And how do we galvanize a certain groundswell of support for the women who dare take on this patriarchy, this male hegemony that has been formed within the political parties? And we'll talk about that with those who are joining us tonight for a conversation looking back on Nana Konadu's life and legacy. The things that she stood for and did, it has been told over the last few days. A few of them founded May 1982, 43 years, the 31st December Women's Movement. We all knew this as kids growing up. The 31st December Women's Movement rolled off your tongue because it was a powerful mobilizing tool for the NDC. PNDC was powerful. There was no organization like it. Championing women's rights, securing market spaces for traders. Go to Mokala, go to the first market, and it'll tell you that story. We've had some of them talk to us this week. Introduce the scholarship schemes for the women, for children there. Advocated for more women in parliament. That is Nana Konadu's legacy. We've seen the numbers of women in parliament oscillate. It hasn't been stable. It's been growing, but not as fast as we had wished for. Somebody needs to carry the torch that she bore. Who will do that? And what will it take to get the next Nana Konadu Rawlings? My guest will weigh in on that tonight. And she's been credited for some groundbreaking legislation, and these legislations are so very fundamental to family law. Interstate succession law, we read about it in school, everybody did, because of its seminal, powerful nature and the way it sort of created a solution for a problem that has bedeviled our society for so long culturally. Marriage registration law and then inheritance law, all credited to her. That's how powerful she is. To the extent that international states women flew in just to commiserate, to show and express condolences to the family. One of them is Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, the former Liberian president, was here, and she made the point. She was strong in commitment to God and to country. And that is an apt way to put it. She served her people till her death. And that's Nana Konadu Rawlings for you. We'll talk about her life and her story. The party that she helped found, that is the NDC, itself very recently, she fell out with the NDC, but very recently, there was an attempt to bring her back into the fold. And she be recognized, rightfully, again, as a founder of the party. Indeed, she had found the party. Together with her husband, she fell out, she formed the NDP. The General Secretary in June publicly made the point that it's time to recognize her role. And he was happy that he made this point when she was still alive. And if you've spoken to Victor Smith and others who served her, served the family, they'll tell you that in the last few months, they've been trying to reconcile with her. Yes, you know, when people achieve so much and they are so strong-willed and determined, sometimes there'll be conflict. But that is what defines who they are. They believe in something, they fight for it, they're ready to die for it. She was convinced that setting up another party was the way to go. She pursued it, regardless of the fact that she had toiled for the NDC. And as you know, the NDC itself came around to be in a position to welcome her back into her fold. How many women can say they can do that when a very powerful political party like the NDC possibly stands in your way? She did it. It's time to celebrate her and look back on her life and put him in a bigger context. I'm looking forward to this conversation because there's an all-female panel. Rarely do we do this on PM Express, but Nana Konadu has made this possible tonight. Stay with me after this. My guests will weigh in. And thank you very much for staying with us here on PM Express. It's always brought to you by Syntax Tanks. It is strong, it is tough. Also by Academic Times and Pepsodent Cavity Fighter Toothpaste. Ghana, let's talk water. And each time you want to store water, the secret is Syntax Tank. Just look for the tortoise on it. Then it tells you that you have the right tank. That's right, the tortoise tank. Syntax Tanks is a champion of water tanks and is strong, durable, and built to handle our Ghanaian weather, rain or shine, air strong, air tough. Also, the Academic Times is the Academic Times Journal, which is launching pretty soon with 3 distinctive graphic publications and a journal that will showcase and empower students across all educational levels. It has another journal that will focus on research that is produced by the various universities. Look out for it when it is launched. Pepsodent Cavity Fighter, every time we eat food and sugars, they are trapped between our teeth, leading to tooth decay, gum disease, and in some cases, foul breath. Brushing your teeth every morning and night with Pepsodent Cavity Fighter gives your teeth the protection they need, leaving you with 10 times stronger teeth. Pepsodent, every smile matters. My guest tonight for this very important conversation, delighted to have Nana Konadu, is a Deputy Chief of Staff responsible for administration. Nana, thank you very much.
Thank you, Evans.
Grateful to have you. Nana Frimpoma Akosia Sapon Kumankuma is a CPP 2024 presidential candidate. I'm grateful to have her.
Wonderful.
Grateful, Nana. Also joining us is Abla Jifa Gomashi. You know her as a Minister for Tourism, Culture and Creative Arts. Jifa, I'm grateful, and she joins us via Zoom. And Felicity Nelson is the Deputy CEO of Operations at Ghana Tourism Development. She's an activist, and she has paid dearly for her activism, but she still stands tall. And I wonder if Nana Konadu Rawlings may have inspired her and whether she looks up to her. The reason why I wanted her particularly, because she's young just like me, and for the young ones who grew up here in Nana Konadu's name and fame, sometimes they say, we didn't know about her. And so I'm curious to learn if for the young generation of gender activists and who believe in activism, whether we've taken any cues and inspiration from Nana Konadu Rawlings. And so I'm delighted to hear her thoughts on this. And so please stay with us on the night when we remember Nana Konadu Rawlings. And I want to start with you, Nana, because you are, I mean, I've done the job for 22 years. And for the first... Yes. For the first 15 years, I believe, or 10, I dealt with you a lot. I mean, CHRI, gender activism, you were doing protests. I remember you were walking. I remember one of the we walked with you to Parliament and, you know, to get a bill passed. I don't know whether it's affirmative action that you campaigned for.
Right to information.
Right to information.
Yes.
What is a single image or memory that comes to mind when you think about Nana Konadu Rawlings?
Strong, bold, courageous, outspoken, compassionate, focused, hardworking, driven.
That's a lot.
Yes.
And she embodied all that for you?
Yes.
In what ways did you see this manifest?
In different ways. Even before I became an activist, I was a very young mother. I'd had 2 kids, 1994. 1995 exploded with the Beijing Platform for Action, the Beijing Conference.
Tell us about that. You know, the Beijing conference when I was growing up in the 90s was a big deal. And when you talk about Beijing, it was Konadu Rawlings.
Yes.
And I still remember her, I was watching black and white at the time.
Yes.
And the pictures came to GTV.
Yes.
And she was representing us, and she was adorning something similar to what you're wearing.
Yes.
I think it was in Japan.
It was in China,
China.
Beijing.
Okay, Beijing, yes.
And
yes.
people don't know
Beijing
that
conference.
even she was so focused and so passionate and really into women's empowerment. And for me, it's like every other day you were hearing women's empowerment on radio and television, and you were hearing news about what the Ghana delegation was doing. And she was quite outspoken to the extent that she actually advocated strongly for inclusion of the girl child as a thematic area. So her position was that you can talk about women's empowerment, you can talk about protection of women's rights, but there's also a need to focus on the girl child and address the peculiar needs of the girl child, especially the girl child in Africa, who at that time and even 30 years later was suffering from like issues of child marriage, defilement, and what have you. So if you see any text in the international discourse on the girl child, it is Nana Konadu Rawlings who argued strongly and got that included as one of the 12 thematic areas of the platform for action. She made things happen. She was headstrong, and once she had the true conviction that this ought to be, she followed through. Yes, she rubbed people the wrong way, but she was very dogmatic about her convictions. And we must say that because she was dogmatic and focused and didn't really just focused on what she was doing, she got a lot out.
You know, when you talked about her role in the girl child and making that part of it just reminded me of a story I did with you a long time ago. I'm pretty sure you've forgotten. Now, Unita and I went way back. I mean, I used to do a lot of human rights stories, and she was the head of the CHR. And this is a story about a child who had been sold into slavery in the Volta region. You know what they do? The mothers are so poor, they sell the children. Yes. And I've traveled to the Volta region, Central region, to find this child. And we did a story, and the child was rescued. And I remember speaking to you, and you were talking about the advocacy, how the state should intervene, and the role of the state in helping protect the girl child. And this one you touched on, it just reminded me that you were so passionate then. Was Nana Konadu Rawlings' advocacy and activism around this subject, did any of that inspire you, the way you became so attached to that cause
Well,
around the time?
Yes, it did inspire.
Because she was a trailblazer, right?
Yeah, she was a trailblazer. And like I said, I mean, I remember very clearly 1995, and it was like an avalanche. It was like a renewal, like, you know, like post the Beijing conference. She came back to Ghana charged, and a lot happened after that. And if we talk about affirmative action, Gender Equity Act in 2024, we go back to 1998, post the 1995 Beijing Platform for Action, and she supported the initiation and adoption of an affirmative action policy that saw that it was that 30% of district assembly should be women.
Yeah.
That is the government appointees, though it wasn't followed to the letter. But as early as 1998, she spearheaded that. And she spearheaded a lot more.
Yeah.
Yes.
And let me talk to Nana on this, because you became also a female presidential candidate. And she's credited for being the first female presidential candidate. I wonder, when you decided to take on the role, CPP is a big political party historically, was Nana Konadu's achievement in that, the fact that she's sort of taking the lead, do you feel you were standing on her shoulders when you took on that role?
Wonderful. Let me put it this way. At least I remember the word bold, be bold.
You're so right, yes. that was the NDP's slogan.
Yes.
Be bold.
Be bold.
Yes.
And it was all over the place, and I just love that. Some of us know her. I've known Nana since 1979 and early 80s.
Okay.
So I've already seen her as somebody that is a strong woman. A certain portion of the revolution time, I had to leave the system based on what happened with 31st. However, I can say that personally, she's my hero. There's some areas that I really think that for young women and for us women, I like to see things in people when things work for them. It doesn't necessarily mean that I wish I was the person, but when things work for them in a particular way, I just like and admire it. And I think her relationship with her husband, her relationship with her children, the way she was so particular about how a mother should bring children up, and she was into their welfare and their upbringing. She didn't leave it to, like, because she was the first lady, she made sure that she was there for the kids. But most importantly is the work she did. The 31st for me, even as much as she might have taken it at a particular point, a lot of people, there's this confusion that she's the founder. Yes, she's the founder in the sense that she took it from a certain level to the level that it got to before the politics of Ghana entered into it. She really, really goes the extra mile. Just exactly as Honorable said, that the adjective that she described her with, somebody that's focused, somebody that's determined and has that strength. She goes the extra mile. I remember when I came in, I spoke to her early 90s, and she was telling me how even sometimes when she was pregnant, she would have to travel. Some people were saying that she went with a helicopter or something, but she still had to go. You understand? And you know, she was not as strong as we thought I didn't expect her to become this strong when she even grew up, because quite early, she was always not feeling that well. She either had some asthma, she was, most of the time she was in the hospital. I mean, early part of her pregnancy and motherhood area.
You were part of the women's movement, the 31st December women's movement?
Yeah, the founding members.
Oh, you were part of it?
Oh, yes.
Tell us a story. Tell us the story of how it was founded and her role in it, because often for young ones now learning about it, we remember 31st December Women's Movement, but we don't really remember the historical narrative around it and her contribution to it. Tell us a bit about that.
31st December Women's Movement. A lot of people think that was a political party. I mean, like a political movement. It wasn't.
Okay.
The name 31st December came because we wanted a name that we could identify with the military and make the military not harass us. We picked that name just to be able to work with the military. So actually, it was between Ya Esiedu, Lifwa Esiedu, they were sisters, Cynthia Nyama.
May she rest in peace.
Oh, wonderful. And that also just passed.
Oh, okay.
Lifwa passed some time back. Then we have Mrs. Obinim. Then we have a lady that I can't seem to have lost for some time now, Yawa Amwa. Yawa Amwa. And then I think another lady I can't. And then Gertrude Zachary. She was then the minister under the PNDC. We formed 31st. I was a businesswoman. My husband joined 31st. He was a diplomat, and then he came to join 31st through Chrisatim and co. They actually convinced me to ask him to come down. So after 31st, and I realized they were harassing women, and I couldn't do my business anymore. So in that process, I wanted a situation that I can help the women that were being harassed. Seriously, that was 31st. So we actually, I told Chris, my ex-husband's friend called Atams, Dr. Atams Natampuri. So I said, Atams, this is what I want to do. So I know some group of young girls who are also thinking of some movement. So that's how we met. Okay. So he took me to meet with Yadem, and it was like that. So we came up with the name, the slogan, everything. Very strong women. Cynthia, Ya. 8 hours we debated on the name 31st December Women's Movement, just like I said, to be able to get the military friendly on us.
At what point did Nana Konadu Rawlings
she came in
connect to that group?
Even on the day of inaugurating the movement, she wasn't in. We tried to make her the patron at that time, but it didn't work. I think she was pregnant or something. It didn't work out well. Okay. However, at a point in time, there was a friction between Ayaga Katapori, Chrisatim, and some members of the Northern Caucus in the revolution, and affected my ex-husband. And for some reason, I was dating Chris at that time. So they came in after us, thought that we had guns. So they arrested Yalifwa, myself, but I was left because my husband had already been picked. And then that was how we left the country. We went into exile. So by the time I came back, the movement had
taken off.
Oh, yes.
And of course, the Nana Konadu Rawlings was family mobilizing at the time.
Absolutely. I went to meet with her. We spent about 3 hours. She introduced me to Mrs. Ambassador Hazel. Yes. Then she was in charge, I think, projects and everything. So he did used to take me around when she was going to do some of the projects. I was so excited when I saw the daycare center because we had started opening such projects before. Yeah. And but people we went around getting food for the country, for the women. Anytime the women, I came up with the song for 31st. We came up with that logo, that name, Total Liberation by any means necessary. I mean, the song for the movement was formed in a hotel in Ho with Kamasa. Was it Kamasa? One of the ministers who was then a minister at that time. So for me, when I came back and I saw what she had done with
and the song, 31st December Movement, something.
No, I don't know what song they sing.
There was one that growing up we used to sing. I don't know whether that was it. Even in school, in kindergarten, we sang it. So it's just ringing in my head now. Maybe that's not a song. But please go on. Please go on.
The one that we did was more of like a revolutionary song.
Okay.
Women. Daya kan woye mamu se.
Okay.
Emaye na ya se o man. Naso yan kasa ye nim se. Enye fom so. Inti mun sorry. Enti mun sorry. Oh. Namunti ya emrano. Enti mun sorry. Oh. That was that kind of song.
I see.
It was like
Very inspiring, actually.
yes. Emre na ewo ono na ekama shefom eno no do sao how ya ba. Inti ma mon sorry oh, inti mon sorry, ain't mon sorry oh.
They're really reliving the times. And that is fascinating. And Jafar Gumashi joins us also with Felicity. I want to bring them in on Zoom. And Jafar, listening to that very powerful story of 31st, I've heard you recently talk about how you were inspired by her. And you met her, I believe, when you were 19 years. How did she impact your life? How did she influence your life?
Well, thank you very much, Evans, and hello to my two sisters with you, and my Felicity, you're my daughter, you know it. Yeah. So when I met Mrs. Rollins, I was an actress with a talent theater company. We used to rehearse at the art center. I should come and watch all the plays that we put up. She loves theater. And then some years down the line, when By the Far Side was introduced, I started working with her on that production. So I started working with that production as a production assistant. Then I became the producer. I wrote stories, I directed sometimes, and each of the way she was involved, at each step. She was a part of the whole production.
So what, she founded the By the Far Side?
Well, so that story sounds like what Nana Konadu has said.
Okay.
There are people who say that others started, but she made it work.
Okay.
In fact, it's a production of the 31st December Women's Movement. So if you look at the fact that she was the president of it, then it's her baby.
Yeah.
And she found the funding for us, the budget for the productions. In fact, she went beyond that. To watch the plays, and if she wasn't happy about something, she would call me and say, the children's dance had too much pelvic movement in it. People gave her lots of things, and she didn't need them, fabrics, toys, what have you. She would give them to us to use for the production. And there were days that I even rehearsed the children in the compound of 31st December Women's Movement. She loved children. And she was very interested in the foundation they got. She believed that, as my mother did, monkey see, monkey do. Whatever you let the children see is the way in which you socialize them, and they grow up with that. So she was very interested in reviving the art of storytelling and using that to teach our children to be culturally savvy.
Okay.
And also to have a patriotic spirit imbibed in them from a very early age.
Yeah.
So I call them the big three. Mrs. Rawlings, Auntie Cecilia Johnson, and Shariati, now all of them gone.
Yeah.
They were amazing women. So yes, I met her when I was in my late teens, but I worked with her for many, many years.
Yeah. I mean, listening to the personal stories, she's had an impact on almost everybody. And let me bring in Felicity now, because Felicity, you're just like me. We're very, very young. We wish you were there when I'm hearing the stories. I mean, you're just looking back. Those were difficult times. Now, Nana is singing about it, and it feels as if it was exciting. But Nana Konadu Rawlings managed to pull people together in very difficult times around the time, the 80s, the 90s. For a young woman like you, and I know you're an activist, I wonder if Nana Konadu Rawlings' legacy, as you've read about, as we all read about in school, had any inspiration for you, Felicity? Did it have any inspiration for you?
I just want to start. Good evening. Good evening to, my mother from the board, so the Honorable Nanoye,
Hi.
my mommy, and then also to, one of our presidential, the female presidential candidate, Auntie Nana. Good evening.
Good
And you're listening. Am I inspired by her? I think that's quite an understatement. I think that she was such a phenomenal woman in every way. So just even if we just talk about the third movement, what I remember is, like, for example, send your girl child to school. This was a campaign that I actually remember. I remember the songs we used to watch TV. I thought it was phenomenal at the time. And now growing up and seeing the number of girls that we have in school, the fact that now so many women achieve so many educational exploits, it just shows the impact. I think that she has shown that being a first citizen is not just something, it's not a decorative piece. You can actually use it to make impact. So the fact just said to me, wherever I can make impact. But as first lady, a lot of first lady, prior to her, never heard from her. They didn't do much, but she was in that position. And you can see what she did with that position. She did so much more than. And right now, she is like the standard when it comes to first ladies in this country. But all comparing, she just didn't go, it wasn't just in time. You have to look at the stuff like, you talk about women's well-being at every level. When you talk about childcare, so this is allowing women to be able to work. And she's looking at not just like in terms of women working within the formal sector, she also looks at women within the informal sector, like marketing. A lot of these child centers were next to market. Phenomenal. Even if you look now in 2025, how many of those centers still exist? So that just shows how much foresight that she had. She was phenomenal. So to say that I'm inspired by her, it's an understatement.
I mean, and
it's an honor. It's actually an honor that I actually get the opportunity to be on this forum.
Yeah. Indeed, I feel that too from what you're saying. But no, I hear the story from by the fireside, and she seemed very committed to the family unit.
Yes.
Promoting it very strongly. And then, because you're a lawyer, I need to bring you in on this. The interstate succession law and the inheritance architecture, she's credited for it.
Yes.
Can you tell us a bit more about that?
But in terms of the family, you said, very, very strong.
Okay. And
when you read her book, It Takes a Woman, you would see how, especially, she was so proud of being an Ashanti. I don't know whether there's anybody who was so proud. And she traced her father's lineage and her mother's lineage. And even in the opening pages of her book, she dedicates it to her Ashanti lineage and makes a very, very deliberate, deliberate connections. And you could also see, like what Nana said, in terms of the upbringing of her children. Like, she made sure they did whatever they had to do as children. They were not privileged and all that. They were just like our children too. So that is a very strong value and strong point. And you talk about the interstate succession. She had opportunity in her work. She went around Ghana, and also in her book, she refers to how she saw rural women in Volta region and in the various parts, and how she was saddened by their plight. Okay. And
especially when they're widowed.
Yes, when they're widowed. So there were many, many stories. I mean, it was a norm where your husband dies, you don't belong to the family, you just came to marry. So they'll throw you out, they'll pack your stuff, you and your children, you're out, and you become destitute. And somehow, I'm sure somebody will give the personal account, but somehow she decided that, no, we must have a law. Okay. And like that was going against the grain.
Yeah.
Because, and I'm hoping somebody can tell us the story. Perhaps, I know lawyer Chachichikata helped her, helped to, draft the law, did the legal. So it'll be interesting to also find out his account. But for me, the fact that she was a very proud Ashanti and she was coming from the matrilineal stock, to go against the grain and advocate for a law that would go against Ashanti, not like against, but against, contrary, not against, contrary to Ashanti inheritance custom in terms of the nephew, and have a law passed that would give more powers to women and children. That was phenomenal, and that spoke to the passion in her, or compassion and empathy, to see that women, their rights were protected. So basically, the law ensured that, one, you were not kicked out of your matrimonial home when your husband died, and it's vice versa, a spouse. And then two, whatever property was there was shared, and the children actually got the larger chunk. So it was shared into 16 parts. The children got 9 out of 16, and then also the wife got 3, and then the family had 3. And that was, like I said, contrary to the established matrilineal Akan system of inheritance. It was difficult, but then gradually as time went on, the court enforced the law. So people, women now would go to court and then, to make sure that it was. And I remember my own big sister, when she died, that law was enforced. So a chunk went to. So
that law survives today.
It's still
the preeminent law when they die interstate.
Yes. And I'm happy that with NDC one under John Dramani Mahama, we commemorated 30 years, and she was actually the guest of honor, and that's where she gave us some personal accounts. And she's a very meticulous person, so she had all her files. So she said, look, she had all her files on the memos and the various correspondences on PNDC Law 11, but it was very groundbreaking.
You know the thing you said that fascinating. I want to bring Jifagumashi in, because to get a law passed, you need to, and because she inspired it, go to Parliament. And
there was no Parliament.
There was no Parliament at the time.
No, that was military. It was, that was the IHAS.
So that was the PNDC.
It was 1985. So that was a PNDC time, military regime. So there was no Parliament.
So she was leveraging the husband then?
Yes, the leverage. So she leveraged on
the husband.
So she applied, I'm sure she used her influence, but it was, of course, a good cause. But it would be interesting to find out the stories and who she was able to convince. Because though it was a military regime, they did have a sort of cabinet of some sort. Because you have PNDC secretary for this, you had Obeda Samoa, like you had, so you still had PNDC secretaries in charge of various sectors, like Professor Kwamna Ahoy, local government, and all that. So it'd be interesting to find out how it panned out in that sort of cabinet.
Yeah.
You know, what arguments and all that. But of course, she held sway.
It's amazing, right? Yeah. One female voice.
Yes.
And these were very strong men at the time. Yes. This is a military regime, by the way.
Yes.
To leverage that relationship, of course, her husband was there, but to leverage and get everybody else, and as you say, it was acting against the grain, and to get everybody else to work with her to have it passed, to survive today, says a lot about how strong she was, how determined she was, that nothing will stand in my way if I want this done. I wonder what when you reflect on that, what does that tell you about what the path she charted for the generations after her? Because she seemed to have broken a certain ceiling. Can you imagine the military regime and one female voice marshalling all the men at the time when we didn't have a parliament, for example, to still get a law passed that survived even in a democratic era, the Fourth Republic and the constitutional era?
Please let me come in. You know, we've had on the books an amendment to the PNDC Law 111. It's been on the books, if I'm not, since 2012.
Goodness.
And up till now. And then we also have the property rights of spouses. up till now, they have not been passed. So it just speaks to her tenacity of purpose. And don't forget, she created, or she helped create, or strengthened a women's movement, 31st December Women. She helped create a political party that is in government now, the NDC. She was one of the founding members and played a very strategic role. She created her own political party, one woman. She created her own political party, NDP. She stood for flag bearer, and then she stood for president. And then look at the role she played as the first lady. So look at all these very, like, against the grain, very difficult.
It's really unprecedented.
Roles. Very unprecedented.
Yeah.
I mean, when we discuss it, we don't look at, the roles or the groundbreaking things that she did in that.
Yeah, I mean, give me your comment and reflections on that.
Absolutely. In fact, that is why I think it's so important that we package Nana Konadu in a way that we can easily hand over to the younger generation. Okay. Especially as a mother and as a woman, a young girl growing up, a mother in society, because you see the question that you are asking. Maybe I can say that some credit will go to the husband, but then again, the credit might go to the husband because of who she is. Yeah. When we formed 31st, I just want to put this here. We decided to go get the blessing of JJ. At that time, it was at Gonda Barracks. So all of us, all the women I've just mentioned, 7 of us, we all went there on an appointment. When we got there, he was sitting here, we're sitting around a table like that. Do you know that the 30 minutes or 40 minutes that we spent there, everything he spoke about was the wife. How a wonderful woman she was, what she has done, or you say, my wife has done this, my wife is this woman, my wife is a strong woman. So actually, when we came out of the room, we said, what was that? What was that for? We want to come and tell you what we are doing, and you are just all telling us about your wife. I'm making a point. And then later, when we got to hear, people are saying she's a strong woman. People use it negatively again. And usually when you are that assertive and strong, people around your husband think that you are a problem. Yeah. So there's all these stories that we hear. She was too powerful. She made the husband do. She was even telling me that when people tell her she was the one that made the husband do things, it's surprising because she knows she's strong. However, that's the military person. So when you combine that, you combine the fact that today women can, no matter what happens with your husband, when your husband passes, at least you don't get sent out of your home. I know personally a family that was sent 9 children after the passing. And if the man tells you the problems that they went through. So her life affected the lives of women. One thing that Nana has said today that really has brought my mind to even why I think this woman must be immortalized is because looking at the Ashanti background, how she was able to even fight for the PNDC law 111, the interstate law, where if the man passed, you still had the right instead of going to Wofasiye, which was the usual thing. So here is my point. Nana Konadu Agyeman Rawlings is that complete package. Maybe she did most of the things she did because she had an access as a first lady. No argument. However, whatever she did, she didn't have to do what she did. She didn't have to go to the
You could have simply enjoyed her life as a first lady.
Precisely. Yeah. Yet I'm saying she was, when we were growing up, we knew her as somebody that, I won't say a sickler, but someone that was constantly not feeling well. You understand? So for her to have been able to carry all these children, like my auntie would say, she never saw her in public with pregnancy or baby, nursing baby. Yes, she did it so well and was able to keep her marriage to the extent, for me, where I even salute her, is what Nana just said. When it became necessary that she wanted to live one of her dreams, that she believed that women can also get to the highest level, and she felt like she has worked for it, and she couldn't get the chance, she did not think too much about the husband which maybe I would have thought of, hey, how am I going to affect my husband with this decision? And she didn't. She took a decision that for her was important, and that is why she has gone beyond everything. That's the human spirit of endurance, the human spirit of never giving up, the human spirit of being focused. That human spirit is what everything in this world is made out of. Yeah. And that is why we need to package that spirit and give it back so that Ghana would work. Because when women work, the society works.
Yeah, I mean, that's a powerful point you made there. And Jifa, which of that what we've just heard there inspired your own political career? You're a member of parliament. She blazed a trail there as well. Kindly unmute for me. Kindly unmute for me. I can hear you now. Yes.
Yes, you can hear me, right?
Yes, I can, yes.
Mm-hmm. So she was very strategic. Amongst the many adjectives that my sister Nanoye has used to describe her was also the fact that she was a very strategic person. She encouraged us to dare to be different and to follow our dreams and our passion. But I remember that when Evans Mensah, my brother, was contesting, he was very young.
Okay.
She thought that she and President Rawlings all thought that we, the girls, should also go. But I told her that I wasn't ready, and I needed for my children to leave the nest so that if I took it up, then I know that I'm ready. So, like Ohima just said, her drive is the reason why maybe today I'm a member of parliament. She made me understand that it's good enough that you're doing well, but you must also see how many women you can bring along. That was key in everything she did with us. And I recognize that in the southern part of the Volta region, no woman had been in parliament in 9 constituencies. So even though by the time I had made my mind that I wanted to contest, she and I had fallen out a little bit. President Rawlings was very happy that I had finally come round to going to contest. So in fact, Dr. Donald Agumenu, Dr. Jokoto and I, the 3 of us, picked the form the same year. And when I went to tell him, he called them and said, all 3 of you go and win. Interestingly, I'm the only person out of the 3 who won. And I think that is because of the strategic way in which Mrs. Rawlings did everything. And I know you mentioned that she was meticulous. She gave for her life was about times and seasons. And that's why it surprised me a little bit in the end of the story that she didn't realize that the timing for forming NDP was not probably the best, because she had taught me strategy. And I used that lesson to win a very difficult election in a highly patriarchal community. So my being in parliament today and many of the things that I've done for myself, I think were partly because of the seeds that she sowed in me. You know, when we lost the election in 2000, she asked me to go and bring the tapes from GBC.
Okay.
But by the far side tapes. I went to GBC and they didn't have the tapes for me. I went and reported to her that I didn't get the tapes as she requested. Later on, they brought us maybe one Ghana Must Go bag full of tape. But if you look at the fact that we recorded by the far side every weekend, if we want those tapes, we should have tracks full of it. But she took it in good faith. She said, let's start again. So in 2005, she got me to come and start the process all over again. But of course, we were in opposition, so access to funding was difficult. And eventually it crumbled. But that's the kind of person she is. She believes in something, she puts everything she has behind it. And it didn't matter who approved or who disapproved. Her conviction drove her to succeed in everything she set her mind to do. So I believe that for many of us women who are in Parliament today, those examples of her life story, whether we admit them or not, have played parts in who and what we have become today. But Evans.
Tell me.
You made a statement in your introduction that even the women didn't vote for her.
Because of 26,000 she got.
I beg your pardon?
Because of the 26,000 she got, although she really struggled to get it, yes.
But why should it be only women who should vote for her? That statement fits into a certain narrative of us women not supporting each other. I think that it was just the timing that I feel. And I told her this. Nano, I don't know if you remember in Kumasi, at City Hotel, was it?
Yeah.
When I had a moment, I told her that the timing was wrong. She was offended. So for me, it was not about the fact that women didn't want to vote for her. It was just the timing. After 19 years, I think people just wanted to breathe. They wanted to come up for air. And a change in the narrative, you see. So for me, it's not about women not wanting to vote for her. I think it was the timing and the circumstance around which she brought herself, to form her party. And that's why I leave it. But I want to say that it wasn't just Mrs. Rawlings who impacted our lives. Ambassador Smith, who is representing us now in the US. Edith Hazel, Auntie Edith, if you are listening, God bless you for your role. There was Patience Domeko. There was Kofi Lawson, who became a DCE for Akachi also. And then, of course, Mami Dokuno.
Yeah.
Grace Omabo, right. I mean, they all played a part in the person that I've become, and the fact that today I can be called a member of Parliament. I celebrate this story of my success in Parliament with them for the various roles that they played. And I know that our families play a role in who we become, but there's also that bigger family out there, the different layer that also impacts us and influence the decisions that we make. So yes, I'm grateful to Mrs. Rawlings for the role that she's played in my life.
Fascinating stuff. And Felicity, whilst I listen to that, in what new ways is your generation picking up the mantle of Nana Konadu Rawlings? And you know, I ask that question because often now you're looking for young gender female activists, and it's a struggle. Today I was looking for somebody who says a young activist, and the only person I could think about was you. Because obviously, because of the activism you did, you were bundled at the time, the protest, and everybody was saying, but why is this young lady destroying her life? You know, you should leave this to the young men to do. It's not for a young woman. And just from what Jifa just said there, she formed a political party. Many disagree with her, but she formed it, right? She believed in it. She was criticized. She had a husband who was the founder of the party, and yet she stayed in the same house with him and had her own political party, right? That, for me, says something. I wonder in what ways is the young generation taking up this mantle in new ways? Are we doing this at all in any new ways? Okay. Carry the torch.
There are many young feminists, by the way. If you look for them, you'll find them. You know, Shamima, Muslim is a feminist. There's Bashira too. Kamal, there's so many young feminists who have done amazing work within the women's rights space. I can't give that stuff the name, and I couldn't make even more. I just wanted to clarify that. I do think that one thing to be taken from her is the fact that it don't take a lot of life when you're doing the right thing and you want to achieve something. So when you look at something like send your girl child to school now, it seems like it's a no-brainer. We can only imagine the kind of the community where sending the girl child to school alien, it was around. In certain areas, sending the girl child to school for what? All I'm trying to do is grow up and get married. And that was revolutionary. She was ready to go against the grain. And even people, I know people like to talk about, well, that was, the president was her husband. But the reality is, when these decisions are being made at cabinet level, if she's not been able to communicate properly, she's not been able to let them understand the issues, I don't think so many of things wanted to be able to go ahead. And she did things who didn't benefit her personally. She did them anyway. So the thing is, in a way, I'm actually her tribe, which is very matriarchal, and they go with hijab hadith, right? She betrayed that, the betterment of Ghanaian women. She looked at that, her decided to go against her husband's political party. She did that to make that statement to herself, but also a statement to Ghanaian women that, look, you don't have to, even if your husband doesn't agree, you can still make decisions for yourself. And that within itself is trailblazing. There's so many women who still struggle to do that even now. Her deciding, even though she didn't get that many votes, the fact is now, Auntie Nana who's on this call now, on this call, because you saw her, even people like Ifeanyi, they looked at her example and they were inspired. So many women in parliament, I think for a lot of young people, it's about how to really carry on the work done already. For example, if you look at the Domestic Violence Act, which has been passed, but its enforcement has been terrible. There's work there that we young people need to do. So I think that as young people, we can look at these things as they built for a certain level, and now it's our chance, our time. It's imperative, especially as young women, that we don't take privileges that we have now for granted. So a lot of young women, they see these things and think, well, these are rights. But people fought for you to have those rights. And how do you ensure you keep those rights and then build on those rights so that the young women who are coming behind you are going to live better lives than you could live. So I think that to me is the message for young people.
Okay. And now the point about women supporting women, but also the campaign to increase women representation in politics and decision-making, which is obviously where you were also headed with leading a political party into an election. She tried that too. The campaign has been ongoing for a long time to increase women representation, say, in Parliament, which she championed. If you assess the work that she's done, you've done, Nanoye had done, that Jifa had done, where are we in achieving those targets? Because her legacy is obvious. There must be something that you can trace to say she achieved something here. She got us on the path. Are we realizing that objective that she fought for, to increase the female voice around the table when the decision is about to be taken, both in Parliament and in governance? Have we made any progress since the time of the revolution days to PNDC, the early 90s, 2000s, all the fight that she fought with all of you? How will you assess progress?
Absolutely. I was just telling Nanoye now, when one of the ladies came in here and telling her she's back to school, she's working, she's back to school, she's doing part-time. And I just said...
Sarah,
yes.
Yes, and I just said, the young ladies of today are trying so hard.
Okay.
It's not like our time. You have children, you're taking care of children at home. It's different now. It might not have been like directly from her, but the emancipation, the struggle, the discussion all over the place, the idea of even being able to leave your child, maybe you were a baby, your mother was able to leave you and go do what she was supposed to do. All these discussions, the Beijing discussion, the feminist discussion, all these things have added up. People like her, I mean, we really admire you. And I'm sure one of these, you're not going now, I'm not saying so because you say, but people like you should be really be giving this the recognition whilst you're alive because of the contributions that you have also made. But and so is my mother here, my sister Jifa. The point here is that I'm sort of not agreeing with her on a certain level.
Okay, express it.
The impact that she's made silently. It is not the ones that are so obvious in life that's the revolutionary changes. No, it is the one that affects our thinking, the one that is subtle, that really affects the way you think. It is not in finishing something that makes you successful sometimes. It is in what you stand for and being able to be so principled that you stand for the things you believe in regardless.
Yeah.
Whether you are going to win or not. But you do this for humanity. You do it because it has nothing to do with trying to get numbers. It had to do with the fact that she felt maybe, I cannot say, I've spoken to her on several things, but I wouldn't want to say, maybe she felt like her time was here, not her time was up, or it was her time and people did not give her that recognition. The fact that she was able to go out there and stand for, have a political party that was clear that it wasn't going to win. Nobody was surprised at the numbers. That was clear. That there was a clear conflict. You can see it with the husband and herself. In terms of where was the man going to stand, he was with the wife, or I felt like the whole drama of the family was quite interesting for some of us.
And then later, the daughter that's goes
my
to
point.
Parliament on the
Yet I'm sitting here and I'm saying, what is this life for? Why do we talk about Osajifo? Do we talk about Osajifo because he was afraid of death, or was it because? No, it's because of the things he achieved. That is why today. Most people in his life are dead, but we will always forever remember him. Nana Konadu Ajiman Rawlings, for the fact that what she did epitomizes what she represents. That she's a genuine spirit of a woman who believes that anyone should excel to the highest, that nothing should stop you. And that is what I want to tell any young person out there. Do it her style. Don't try and take the place of a man. That's not what she did. She didn't take the place of her husband. She still, otherwise, that family would not have worked because he's a military man. But yet, she took her place and took it well and did it well. Take your place, do what is right, and let's do what you believe must be done. Regardless, if you have to walk away, walk away. If you don't have to walk away, do what is right. And for me, that spirit is very rare. Most people would compromise. Most people would sacrifice and just do what society or everybody is saying. Like for me, when I didn't want to travel, my father had convinced me during those exile time, he knows what is happening. He thinks that you should leave, we must leave. And today I regret leaving. I had no business living at the time. I was a successful businesswoman. I had no business trying to go live anywhere. But you have to listen to your husband. So for me, I would any day, I think in this continent that we live on, maybe the only person that comes close to her from a distance is Winnie.
Yeah, also very strong.
Yes.
But beyond that, all the presidents that have passed and gone, and yet to come, I'm yet to find one that has made that kind of impact. I'm telling you, in the political
And then, no, you please wait in for me.
Yeah. You see, what we should clearly understand is how she awakened political activism and consciousness in women across the length and breadth of Ghana. And
even beyond. I mean, Ellen Johnson-Sirleaf flew down.
Yes.
Talking about her inspiration.
Especially during the mobilization formation of NDC. When there was the decision to transition and NDC was formed, she was smack in the middle of it. And she campaigned despite her ill health and awakened that political consciousness. even before that, in strengthening and coming up with, or, you know, the role she played in 31st December, look at the symbolism. Do not forget she was a creative.
Yeah.
The symbolism of even the symbolism of the 31st December, a woman holding a gun. Look at the communication, the strength of
Powerful.
that communication. You know, women who are subservient, women who have to obey their husbands and all that. And then there's a movement, a grassroots movement that has a woman in a red beret. You know, red means war, red means vibrancy, red means action and all that. So even in the selection of the attire for 31st December women, and it spread like wildfire. It was across all the communities. But I think that political consciousness that she awakened in women, akin to, like I've said, Kwame Nkrumah's mobilization or getting the market women to mobilize for the independence struggles. And that is why we have Jifa Gomashi and there are several other women, even Hannah Bissou, her mom was, I think her mom must have been a member of 31st. So even the second generation or first generation, some of the women who are in parliament or are actively involved in politics at all levels, they'll tell that, oh, their mother was 31st December. And even some of the women in parliament sprang from 31st December women and then transitioned into parliament. And she was part of that process of political activism translated into Women's Manifesto. She was part of it and now has translated into the promulgation of the Affirmative Action Gender Equity Act. That is is saying that by the end of 2025, government positions, women must hold 30% of all positions across. All that political consciousness and also civil society, all that has rolled into that product, because we ran the first past the post system. And when you look at the data, right from independence, it would have been difficult for us. But the role she played, the role civil society played, has now landed us with the Affirmative Action Gender Equity Act. So it's also, you know, like she also contributed in that way, yes.
And I want to take a break. When I return, we'll wrap up, but I'll ask my guests to assess progress. Progress made on some of the key things that she stood for. We're going to measure them, say, in Parliament. We still have, I believe, 14% of the current makeup in Parliament is female. Is that good enough? We had a target. Have we met our targets there? Encouraging more within the political parties, she starts first, and then outside the political parties. John Mahama made bold commitments, and Nana was just articulating that, and he has accepted that. In fact, I remember that in the early days when he was making an appointment, he was very clear he wanted to achieve that target. And about, I believe, 13% in his government. Nana will clarify that for me. But those are the big ticket items we'll assess next. She sacrificed a lot. Are we happy with the progress made on the big ticket items that she stood for? If not, who is going to carry the torch forward? Is it Nana maybe? Or Nana with the CPP, or Felicity maybe? But how do we get more of Nana Konadu to carry the torch into the next, 20, 30 years? Stay with me after this. And thanks for staying with us here on PM Express as we wrap up, as we all remember Nana Konadu Rawlings and what she stood for, the enduring impact that she's left behind and a legacy. I'm delighted that you could stay with us. And I want to now spend the next few minutes assessing impact, because she sacrificed for decades fighting for equity for women and the advancement of the female within our midst. And she did a lot for that. And Nana Oye had detailed the work that she's done in that area. I want to bring in Jifa into that conversation. Jifa, I want to go to Parliament, for example, because I'm just looking at the balance in Parliament now. If I'm not mistaken, we have 41 women in Parliament after the elections in 2024. Many will say that is not enough, considering how much work the likes of Nana Konadu Rawlings and yourself have put in leveling the field for all of you. What's your assessment of the progress that has been made in this area?
Well, Evans, I think that in the 8th Parliament, there was 40 of us. So in the 9th Parliament, we have one more.
Yeah.
And in the 8th Parliament, it was 20 on the side of the NPP and 20 on the side of the NBC. And now I think there's 31 on our side and there's 10 on the side of the NPP. So I think that in actual fact, we haven't made progress. The percentage is still the same. It's just a balance that has tilted onto our side more. The 41 in the chamber now, I say that we must start looking at how to maintain them and add on. The terrain is getting rougher.
Okay.
The attacks are getting more. And the support is not as it should be. What I fear is that we all come out, civil society, advocates, and so on. Before the elections, everybody's talking about women, vote for them, and then once the election is over, then we are all back to ground zero. But that's not how to champion causes, as Mrs. Rawlings has taught us. You don't stop.
Yeah.
You keep moving. You find more fuel. Why is it that we have more interventions, including people we call he for she's, and yet the numbers are not reflecting in the chamber? And many women take the form. So why didn't they win? Why was the support not there for them? I've heard that in Kwame Nkrumah's days, they were picked, they didn't contest, they were nominated to represent constituencies. What is the way forward? How do we ensure that the numbers increase? Countries are doing better than us. Even countries that have come out of war, look at Rwanda.
Yeah.
So we cannot say that we are the first in this, and we went to Beijing, and we went to that, and we did this. And still, the women who want to come into the chamber are being kept out. I can assure you that it was hard work to come back. And so I can imagine what the other women who picked the form have gone through and still didn't make it into the chamber. Perhaps we should nominate Nanoye to give us that leadership going forward, to see how we start work now to ensure that in the next parliament, in the 10th parliament, the numbers will improve.
Nana, do you accept the challenge?
Yes, we all must
You can't
accept
say
the
no.
challenge.
So you can say no.
We must make it happen. It's continuous. We must sustain. Nana Konadu, God bless her soul, has done her part. We must continue.
What would it take, though? What would it take?
It would take a lot, because the biggest challenge is the political system we run. And you see that when you read the Affirmative Action Gender Equity Act, you realize that they took Parliament out. Because one would have thought that the quota would apply to Parliament. But when you read the text in the Act, the language is weak, because that would have solved a lot of problems. So that what we see in Rwanda, what we see in South Africa and Mozambique, the proportional representation, would now occur in Ghana. And imagine what it will be even having the 30. Now with 14%, look at how well the female parliamentarians are doing. And then if we had 30%. And the beauty about Nana Konadu's legacy was how she saw it as a well-rounded issue. So she also worked on the economic empowerment and built over 100 to 200 daycare
centers.
No.
870.
Wow.
870 daycare centers so that women working could leave their children and work. And in addition to that, she did this send your girl child to school campaign. And there were some people who, she, even in scholarships, where the state was giving scholarships, she also lobbied to make sure that, like to Cuba and all that, make sure that the women, some of the women, their girl child, also had that opportunity to go to Cuba for the scholarship. So didn't just look at political activism or political consciousness, but also looked at education of the girl child, looked at a legal framework that would protect the rights of women, and then also looked at cash, economic empowerment by the Gary processing factory. And they said she directly influenced about 2 million women. Actually,
I mean, I just have a minute to wrap up. I mean, Felicity, are you ready to carry the torch? Very briefly.
Absolutely. I also, it's not just about Nana Konadu and what she's done. It's about how many Nanas we create, and when you're being told to be a Nana Konadu, are you going to answer? I am indeed answering, and my message to other young women is that they also answer.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, Nana. I'm grateful. And thank you, Nana, also. The two Nanas, I'm grateful. And I like the challenge that has been thrown to Nana later. She's accepted it. And I guess that's where the men must also help. Because Rawlings played an important role. In fact, he didn't stand in her way. He didn't stand in his way, in her way. Enjoy the rest of your evening as we continue to celebrate the legacy of Nana Konadu Rawlings.